Welcome back. So, MoP Remix has been out for a while, a lot of things have been learned, and today the good news is you're going to learn all of them too. Now, I wish I could sit here and tell you about frog farming and how amazing it is and how you could do it right now, but obviously that got changed. And the TLDR is that for a beautiful period, all was right in the world. The hyperspawn frog blender that of course many of us remember from MoP, it just was up for most of the weekend. People were getting insane amounts of bronze, gems, and threads. It was crazy, all because those frogs dropped lesser charms. But of course, it was way too powerful. It was the only thing that you felt like you should be doing, and that meant that somebody at Blizzard had to spend their Sunday nerfing it into the ground. RIP, it was fun while it lasted. The good news though is that bronze drops from caches, dailies, and achievements have now been buffed by 25%, so even if you missed out on the frog mayhem, the good news is it still ended up benefiting you. So, we're here to cut right through the noise and bring you the up-to-date strats on farming bronze and getting all of the cosmetics, and maybe some power, that you want. And this kind of doubles as a leveling guide. You'll find out why soon, after you've checked out today's sponsor. Where we're going to save some money, be more secure, and be more convenient with nordvpn.com/Bellular Warcraft. Right? That's the place to go. And if you use my link, you will get 4 months for free on a 2-year plan. And that is, of course, backed by their zero-risk 30-day money-back guarantee. Now, you probably know Nord for their VPN, but they're actually a whole suite of security and convenience tools. There's NordVPN that, of course, lets you use the internet as if you are anywhere, which means you can bypass regional restrictions and content. It means you can access streaming libraries for other countries, get past various different region blockers, and even save money by region hopping to get better deals and things, which can be a real game changer, by the way, if you're booking like a trip or a holiday, like my Florida one last year. Now, they've got apps on every major platform, and that makes Nord extremely easy to use. And as I said, they are more than just a VPN. You'll also get Dark Web Monitor. It'll actually alert you if your credentials appear in a data leak, which means you can solve that problem before it turns into a problem. And of course, there's also their suite of threat protection tools. And they've even more up their sleeve, like their password manager, NordPass. Like seriously, life after using a password manager is so much better and easier and more secure. Like literally, forgetting passwords is a thing of the past for me. Anyway, if those things sound interesting to you, you can check out nordvpn.com/Bellular Warcraft. If you go there, you'll be able to get 4 months for free on a 2-year plan. You can check out all the other things that they do, and of course, backed by the 30-day, no questions asked money back guarantee. Okay, we'll start with the question. How insane do you have to grind to max out everything? The answer is, if you want to do it quick, quit your job and say bye to your loved ones because it costs 1.6 million bronze to buy every single cosmetic. And by our calculations, that is about 300 hours of gameplay if you're doing it right, and that's a lot. And that's also before we talk about the big, major issue, upgrading your gear. Because when you hit 65 to 70, you'll start to suck. You'll hit like a wet noodle, you'll die to a light breeze, until you spend an insane amount of bronze, almost 600k, upgrading your character, which is kind of brutal. So whether you want gear or you just want cosmetics, ultimately it all comes down to your ability to earn bronze. So let's focus on that. And look, 300 hours does seem absolutely crazy. Number one, you don't need to get every single cosmetic. And number two, this event is up for 3 months, which really does make this stuff a lot more manageable. Plus, being real, I'm pretty sure Blizzard will buff things more in the future. Rates of earning bronze then. So, frog farming in the Timeless Isle was about 30k to 50k bronze an hour. It's been hotfixed, it's dead, so what's the next best thing? That's a good question. People have been trying to find alternatives, but nothing is remotely close. Farming Silver Covenant mobs in the Horde-only Purge of Dalaran scenario was floated as one of the better options, but that limits you to Horde, and it's kind of awkward doing the Dominance Offensive chain to get to that point. People have suggested the hyperspawning goats in Skyrange and Valley of the Four Winds, but it's not as amazing as the frogs. We saw numbers of about 3.5k to 6k an hour, which ain't bad, but it's not great. Now, if you like farming mindlessly, then it is still a pretty good choice, but the trick is to use the 2x4 method. Basically, if a group of 5 people tags a mob, nobody else can. But if a group of 4 people tag a mob, then another group of 4 people can also tag the mob. And that means that mob farmers have basically got a gentleman's agreement to run 4-man groups, because that means a total of 8 people can loot a mob over 5. So if you're farming, that's kind of your option, and I'll update you if any other hyper farms arise. That aside, across my team, we just think the best thing to do if you want to break the game is abuse the low level scaling. Alts, of course, get bigger cloaks based on your infinite power achievement progress, up to a total of 12. And that means that, say, a level 10 alt, especially on some specs that have got their main abilities quick, like an Arcane Mage or a Guardian Druid, are just broken with a maxed out cloak. Like, it's crazy, and if you can get a group of people together to hardcore blast out dungeons and fresh alts, you'll be clearing entire dungeons in 4 to 5 minutes at most. So we tested that, and it turns out that if dungeon running is your thing, this will yield you a few hundred per dungeon, and you can get about 9 to 10k an hour at absolute zero breaks top speed, if our calculations are right. But there is a catch. That's a lot of effort, it can get really stale, and it does require new characters to be rolled once the scaling and leveling gets in the way, so it may just be too complicated or too much of a hassle unless it's really your thing. If you've only got a little time, doing a quick dungeon with the daily quest is great though, as is doing some fast dailies at the Golden Lotus and the Order of the Cloud Serpent, or questing if you have got speed leveling down, but those are all less efficient than what I think is currently the best way to spend your time, and that is raiding. And thankfully, this expansion's got great raids. The current belief, which is shared by the group of people who farmed frogs so hard they managed to kill Mythic Garrosh with only 12 people, is that the best thing you can do is do raids on their daily lockout. That seems to be the best way to get bronze. Not even the hard raids either. They got around 15k bronze for their mythic clear of Siege of Orgrimmar, but that's not really worth the effort compared to us getting around 12k bronze for a normal clear. Our testing was just hopping into pug raids, and it basically looked like this. Mogushan Vaults and Heart of Fear were total cakewalks, earning about 4k for 45 minutes to an hour. Terrace of the Eternal Springs was over in a heartbeat and netted around 2k bronze. Throne of Thunder had, well, a few bosses and a few segments that caused problems and netted about 4k for a half clear that took over an hour and fell apart, and then Siege of Orgrimmar was a proper 3-hour session, but it did result in getting around 12k bronze. Most of the bronze is from the caches that are awarded from the bosses, so you can increase that by about 20% because of the hotfixes that Blizzard did. And that means that at normal pug speeds, you could be getting just over 5k bronze an hour. Now, if you wanted to maybe avoid one, Throne of Thunder has ended up being a bit of a pug killer just because of bosses like Darumu and his big beam mechanic that it blasted pugs back when I remember doing it back in the day, and it still does that now. But yes, the sad but real news is that right now the best thing to do for bronze is to clear raids daily. All 5 raids should take you about 8 hours if you're pugging, and a hell of a lot less time if you're doing it with a guild, which absolutely is the better way to do it. And that leads to a question: how can you make all of that faster? And what about leveling? If you don't have a guild or a friend group full of big pumpers, and you've only got yourself to rely on, then here's the strategy. Level alts while you're doing it, and I seriously mean this. Play at the lowest level possible on a fresh character and just go to town, again, because of how the scaling works. If you wanted pure XP per hour, questing at full speed is actually probably the fastest, but there is a trick. Raiding normal gives your cloak 12% XP per boss. A quick run of Mogushan Vaults, under an hour, gives you a few levels and an extra 72% XP gain for that alt. That is per raid per day. LFR also, by the way, gives you 7% per wing, which is real strong. And with a few of those, your leveling speed will be absolutely mad. But why low-level alts and not your main? Well, the answer is simple. Low-level characters are just plain overpowered. Scaling means that the lower you are, the more power you have relative to the content when you're scaled with your cloak. We saw a lot of success in particular playing Guardian Druid for tanking, Resto Shaman for healing, and Shadow Priest and Arcane Mage for DPS. Guardian is just a total AoE monster, and Resto's gem scaling is real strong, but Shadow Priests with the Tireless Spirit meta gem is just absolutely crazy. You can get 4 to 5 free Devouring Plagues on pull, which is basically just fight-ending damage, and Arcane Mage is just a scaling champ. If you walk into a raid at low level with strong gems like Enkindle, Brittle, and Slay, as well as some good damage procs like Explosive Barrage and Meteor Storm for your Tinker gems, just expect to be top of the damage meters and basically take a minute or two off boss kills. It's kind of broken. Another strong thing to do is to try to get ward stacking on the go. If there's a blood DK in your group, we would suggest that everybody runs Ward of Salvation and puts it on them on pull. It's stronger with coordination, but the way it stacks with self-healing means that with Leech from the Cloak, it turns every ward into an absolutely gigantic bomb. This is actually so powerful that Echo Raiders were using ward stacking to clear loads of Mythic Siege, and they even one-shotted Malkarok. It just works so damn well. So, very strong, best of the blood DK, but it is okay with other tanks as well. Now, the overall best part of this whole low-level alt-based approach is that most of the cosmetics are in the 2 to 5k bronze range. So it's pretty easy to get 10 to 20k on one alt, buy some stuff, then set that character aside, and to just go and do stuff on a new, fresher alt with more busted scaling. But if you want to see how you can get your main to be as strong as the people who took down Garrosh Mythic, I've got to be real with you, you're probably going to have to give up on getting your cosmetics early. Unless Blizzard, anyway, makes some pretty big changes. Here's the rough truth. It costs 577k bronze to fully upgrade your gear. It's a flat price the whole way up, and with how high level works, most of the obscene, broken feeling super fun power comes towards the end. That means that unless something changes, spending bronze and gear upgrades feels like you have to do it, but also a bit of a waste. And we should know, I mean, Matt spent the weekend grinding like mad and putting everything into gear to see if it was worth it, and almost 60,000 bronze later, including a little bit of farming frogs for an hour before they got hotfixed, and his Resto Shaman, with all of his bronze spent and a legendary gem in every slot, was still far weaker than a Guildy's level 63 warrior. Yeah. So maybe Blizzard's idea here is that you upgrade your gear to farm bronze faster, but the difference between Mythic, Heroic, and normal raids and how quickly you can complete them just doesn't really make up such a massive difference, at least not with a daily lockout. At a conservative average of 5k bronze an hour, it would take over 115 hours of raiding to max out your gear, and that would leave you at 0 bronze and 1.6 million to farm if you wanted all the cosmetics. You might be able to solo heroic fights in half an hour when you get that strong, but it's hard to recommend that kind of thing considering how expensive the buy-in is to getting that fully upgraded gear at max level. And that ultimately means that the only reason to power up to that degree is if you want to go for the Paragon of the Mists title from Mythic Garrosh. Why do that when you can just roll a new character, nuke dungeons to get bronze and achievement bonuses, then go top the DPS meters in raids with complete ease, and then spend all your bronze on some cosmetics, and also have a leveled up character as a bonus, and just do that a few times. So unless you plan playing Remix for over 300 hours over the next 90 days, you should focus on Remix-only items first, and then buy the existing in-game cosmetics after that. So, if you want a recommendation for now, there you have it. Level your alts and earn bronze through dungeons and raiding. Farming out a gigantic cloak with a whole ton of gear on your main is just not worth it with how bronze is now, unless something changes. I don't know, maybe Blizzard will do some buffs, maybe they'll fix the scaling, but ultimately, this is how it has launched. And also, just for the sake of it, I'll state the obvious, playing like an absolute madman in the expansion that basically tried to say, slow down and save your life, is kind of ironic. The intent that Blizzard has here is something you should try to roll with, and that is just to reminisce an amazing expansion, have fun, and see the place. If you want to go and gear up and see if you can speedrun heroic raids every single day, sure, go for it. But really, when we think about the 1.6 million bronze, a lot of that is going to be buying sets that you can already earn in regular World of Warcraft. All of these raids are on a daily lockout even outside of time running, so certainly, with your bronze, I would think about getting the class ensembles, and then maybe start thinking about some of those Garrosh heirlooms, those special rare things, and if you just go for those, it's a very attainable amount of bronze. To try to get every single cosmetic for every single class is probably a little bit unrealistic, and thankfully the good news here is, well, it's not really a FOMO thing because all of that gear can be got in the game anyway. So, just have fun, get the stuff you like. I would recommend just leveling up through Pandaria, think of this as a fun way to get a stack of characters on the go for the war with it. Ultimately, I do anticipate there will be changes here. I think Blizzard are going to change up how that gear works. I think they'll probably try to tweak the scaling so that 60 through 70 doesn't feel the way that it does right now. A level 70 character that's invested 60k, 100k bronze shouldn't feel like it's being creamed by a level 63. That just does not seem to fit design intent. So keep that in mind and, well, try to have fun. And hey, when you've blasted through all those raids and you've got all of those 7 and 12% XP bonuses, getting those characters up to maybe level 50 if you want to unlock the Heritage Armor quest for that race, or maybe level 70 to get ready for War Within, it will be extremely fast. Okay, that's it for me. That's all we've learned, and when we learn new things, I will bring you an update. Okay, take care, have fun, see you next time.